And hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And you guys gonna love today's guests as much as I love them. So actually, no, let's wait. And you guys gonna meet him right after this. Hello again, my name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And you guys gonna love today's guest because I had the opportunity to ethical stalk him over the last few days. And actually, I learned that whatever he does, if you put the word chef or hospitality or entrepreneur to it, that you guys gonna fall in love with him as much as I did. So not only is he amazingly good as a human being, because he was referred to us to a friend, he worked with a company called Rags and Bones, and we're gonna dive in a little bit deeper of what they do. He did some national sales for Merrell, so for me, best shoes out there. So it's all Miles's a thing. But what I really, really love about him is that and not just reshapes, but he works with underperforming divisions. And for me, that's probably one of the most things I seen the last few weeks as I started to kind of go in and kind of ethical stalking. He talks about going fast to going far, and we can ask him a little bit more about that. But I found him that he's an amazing human being, and I want to introduce everybody to Myles Levin. How you doing?
And I'm well, Chef.
To the Chef Show.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to see you. You look amazing. The show's incredible. The intro was top shelf.
So first off, thanks a lot for being here today. And my team and I showed you did a 1.5 pages on you, and I will share a little bit later what they said about you, because for me, it was actually kind of humbling of what they said about you. But also for me, spending some time ethical stalking you, there's 3 things I absolutely love about you. Number one is that you have an honest interest in helping people. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I hope you know that. Because for me, just looking at your background, you're probably into sports and music. So for me, I know I found that you want the best for anybody giving some advice. This is number one. The second thing for me was that the Myles, which answered a question, or boast somebody or push somebody a little bit, it's the same guy from what I found 5-6 years ago. So for me, you've been consistently the same, and you give the same advice, which I absolutely love. And then finally is I find that as I started diving into it, I was like, oh, crap. He came from a friend of mine, and I can't tell him that, but I think Myles is a really good human being. So for me, that's probably more than anything, because what the Disruptive Chef show is all about, we want to disrupt people thinking. And for me, just a few things you always talk about. If I put the name chef, hospitality, entrepreneur, anything onto it, it's some really good advice people can act on it today to have a total different career tomorrow. So with that, tell us a little bit, how did this whole thing start?
The whole thing being our introduction, or the whole thing like my career path or my dysfunction? Where do you want me to take this?
Wherever you want to get into. So, but I'm interested. So how did you even start getting into some of the things you're into? And how did it evolve over the years?
I followed my passion more than profit. And every time I've chased money, I've gotten screwed. And every time I let my passion drive me and define the purpose, I've gone farther and better. And I come from relatively modest means. I've been afforded great opportunities, and there are a handful of people that have gone out of their way to give me a helping hand, with no expectation in return, but they've been there. And so I feel indebted to give it back or pay it forward, whatever the right word is in some level. My passions have been sports, music, the arts. Chef, I believe that the world doesn't need more shit. We have too much. So it's incumbent upon us to do better. And better is very subjective. But for me, in the world of AI and all this predictive index, we're losing touch with the liberal arts, culinary arts, the aesthetic arts. And that's going to be what's in demand in the future, because they're going to need the creators and the dreamers to interpret what the machines are spitting out. And
I love that.
it's really come together for me now. But that's what I followed it, and I've just been afforded some amazing opportunities, and I'm like super grateful for those that trusted me.
I absolutely love that. And there's a few things I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into it. You said this whole thing about AI, and full transparency to our listeners know, about a year ago, I had an employee came for the summer, and I said, your sole job is to research every single AI out there and see if you can use some of it to make us more efficient. And want you to research to see what's actually out there. And as she did some research on it, I realized that AI is amazing in certain things, but it cannot take away the human interaction. And you said earlier, I honestly believe as a society, we over-related yet underconnected. And for me, more hospitality than anything else. People want to come because they want to have human interaction. And I'm
Yes.
that. I had dinner last night with my family. We celebrated a little thing with my oldest daughter. But I walked in, first time I went into this place, it's a Japanese place. It reminded me of being in Japan, the way it was the way they were dressed, the way the plate looked, the way every dish showed up. I was like, I'm absolutely falling in love with this place. And AI can't do that. Not yet. Not yet. But for me, it was one of those things. I just sat there and I looked around, and we sat in a corner, and I looked at my family, and I looked at my daughter, which is adopted. I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of the very first day 16 years ago, where I seen her eat dumplings. And this is the same person I fell in love with, 16 years ago. And today she's moving into Manhattan. So for me, it was one of those things where I was like, wow. And this is something AI can't take away. So for me, is I asked earlier, what are the pictures about? I know if any of our listeners are on YouTube or any of the other channels, they're going to say, oh my God, this is amazing back there. So talk to us a little bit on the picture you have behind you.
Oh, thank you. I've got everyone from Slash to Lou Reed to the Beastie Boys to David Bowie back. A dear friend of mine, Billy Tompkins, was the staff photographer at Madison Square Garden, worked at Viacom, and connected me with the artist. So I either did direct collaborations with them or were guest of, and these are Billy's photographs. I rotate them in and out with some regularity. But to your point, Chef, hospitality, food, products, because I'm a product person, it's not about the transaction. It's about the experience and the memories that are created with the people that you care about when that happens. And someone that is not passionate about it just looks at it as another meal.
Yep.
Nourishment. But I, much like you, look at it like, hey, you remember what you did with your daughter 17 years ago. I look at product the same way, or photographs. So when someone says, oh, I love the Beastie Boys, me too. But I happen to remember when ... because there's a whole backstory to it.
Yeah.
And that for me leans into the arts and everyone that's creating and the discipline that they bring to be self-expressive and to do things that are uniquely individual, because I think the world needs to celebrate that a bit more.
I absolutely love that. And for me, as I happen to have the opportunity to kind of dive a little bit deeper on who Myles actually is, there was two things which really hit home for me. And I like putting things in buckets. I call the first one is that you constantly challenged industry beliefs. And what I mean by that is you worked for Rags and Bones. You always believed not just in profits, and you talked about that before, that you were under the assumption that you need to challenge the system, that you need to have an approach to rebuild strategy. And for me, that's so hit home, because today's restaurateurs, it's not enough to make a great meal, or it's not enough for you to be a good people person. So there's more to it. So talk to us a little bit about it, where you kind of came up with that assumption that you need to challenge the system and you need to have an approach to rebuild strategy.
Yeah, thank you. So Rag and Bone's a premium manufacturer and designer of contemporary and advanced contemporary apparel, mostly denim. And a group recruited me there to help put them in the men's footwear business. So independent of that specific experience, the question you're asking about strategy and how to go about it comes back to just a fundamental belief that I hold dear. And that is something I shared with you earlier, which
Yeah.
is, the world's distracted. It doesn't need more. So how do you create value? And value is beloved or heirloom experiences.
Yeah.
And on a product side, it's what collaboration, what problem might we solve, what personal touch can we add that's going to be memorable.
Mhm.
And the strategy part of selling has been more important to me because in a sales capacity, when someone's prioritizing purpose before profit, which is contrary to
Mhm.
the notion of a salesperson, the conversation then turns to one of education and inspiration, which will take you farther than the single transaction. So, if you're opening a restaurant and you have great front of the house, amazing back of the house, a good value for the serving size of what you're producing, and the people that are there love it, now you're relevant. But are the people there telling their friends this is a must have
Yeah.
experience? And that's resonant. So when you're resonating and they're telling others, then you're more important to that community. And that community then has a network effect that grows. And that's just the same approach that I took. I don't,
Yeah.
don't want to, boil the ocean at one time.
Yeah. I,
So
yeah, by the way,
please.
I love that. And I want to go a little deeper because you said that earlier. You talked about where you said, hey, I early in my career, I took a step into a field which felt out of scope. And for me, that probably kind of goes back into what we talked about earlier, but I want to see what pushes us to say yes, and how did that experience not just shape you, but how that experience kind of help you grow and expand the leadership of yours. Because for me, I'm so fascinated about that because there's so many of our listeners are in a position which totally feels out of scope. So talk to us a little bit about that.
I went to work at Merrell Footwear. I was
Mhm.
brought on as a regional sales manager and then was promoted to the national sales manager and
Mhm.
relocated to corporate. And at corporate, our business was good, not great. We did 30, 35 million in turnover. It hadn't exploded to the brand that it is today. And a particular designer was contracted, a gentleman named Steve McDonald, a former Nike designer, very responsible for ACG, the all conditions gear. Steve
Yep.
came in and just started drawing and creating product that blew my mind. And not only it blew my mind, but it entertained the industry. And in that storytelling and that entertainment, our revenue started to ramp up exponentially. And I was young at the time, and he was a magician. And immediately I was like, I understood I have to follow great design. I have to find people that are more experienced, that understand how to storytell and produce product that's imaginative. Because in that
Mhm.
process, our revenues grew. I didn't know different. If you're trustworthy, you're hardworking, you put the time in, it doesn't necessarily guarantee success. But if you're
Mhm.
delighting the end customer with something unique and signature and different that's relevant, then boom, we did it. And so that became very much part of who I became or evolved into, which was selfishly following great designers around and helping to optimize what it is that they do. Follow a great chef. I'll run the front of house. If you're making great food, I'll give them the hospitality.
Okay, you make it sound way too easy. Because for me, I love your evolution, and you also talk a lot about teamwork. So you shifted from a solo execution guy to have a team you manage. So what inspired you to transform? And that might be a multi-way question. So what inspired you to transform? And what advice do you have to today's leader, which saying, "Hey, I want to go fast. I want to go alone. I want to get it done."
My experience was by accident. I got pushed into management from a sales position, and I had some great sales reps that were
Mhm.
much more sophisticated and older than I was that were patient with me, where they
Mhm.
could have really taken advantage of me because there was some naivete. It used to be I was the youngest one in the room. Now I'm the oldest. So the tables have turned, chef. But at the end of the day, I just came to appreciate a couple things. People just genuinely want to be recognized.
Mhm.
They want to be respected and heard, and they want to be celebrated. And I started to appreciate that we'll have wins and we'll have lessons learned, but we're not going to have losses.
Mhm.
And if we can bring that discipline and a structure to build a culture with transparency and discipline, because you have to have the fundamentals financially, you got to have the fundamentals on your timeline, but there's a personable approach to business, then corporate business can survive in a more humanitarian way. And so
Yeah.
that was been sort of my process. And I guess, look, I've made more mistakes than most. I mean, come on. I learned to shave on other people's beards and then worked on
Thank
mine.
God you made all the mistakes because I made none.
I'm still making them. My training wheels are still on. You kidding me? It's focus. It's rhythm.
I love what you just said, and I want our listeners just to go back 2 minutes because, as you talked about this, it reminds me of a South African proverb: "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team." And for me, it took me a long time to learn that. And when you talk about making mistakes, I was like, "Oh man, I just made a mistake yesterday." I don't think they will ever go away. But for me, what you said is so crucial about it. I kind of was pushed in that position. How often is anybody in this industry currently being pushed in being the chef or being something else? And then also, how often do you feel like you're being pushed by whatever you call it, the outside world? How often do you feel like you're being pushed by circumstances? And for me, what I love more about you than anything else is first of all, you have a very positive outlook, and I want to know more about how and where that came from. And then also, you always kind of say, "Hey, it had to be this way because I had to learn," or "This had to be this way because I don't know and I don't care," and I keep going. So for me, that's one of the skills I fell in love with you as I started researching you because you talk about this all the time. So can you help our listeners a little bit? Because I know there's 20, 30,000 of them which feel stuck. And how would you ask them to or tell them to get out of that?
Well, I would start by telling them I'm stuck every day. Every morning I wake up, I'm stuck. So they're not special and they got to stop feeling special for being stuck. Let's start by winning the day. Just win the
Mhm.
day. And celebrate themselves and what's uniquely different about them, and then how their vision comes together, where they want to go. To your earlier proverb of going farther, not and faster, surround yourself with people that are honest and willing to challenge your beliefs
Mhm.
about you. Ask the difficult questions. My background and the way I am is because of dysfunction and hardship, to be quite candid. I've been personally responsible for myself for a very, very, very long time and emotionally on my own until I've been married. I got a beautiful wife and 2 daughters, and I'm very grateful for them. But those experiences growing up, being
Mhm.
alone and in solitude and having to fight for literally to figure it out, or there's going to be another issue. You build calluses, and then after you build the
Mhm.
calluses, you figure out, okay, there's more to learn.
Yeah.
So it comes down to mental judo. Do you want to be a
Yeah.
happy
I
person or
love
a
that.
sad person?
I love that because I think both of that is available because you can look at something and say, "Oh, why me? Why me?" Or you could say what you just said. It's meant to be this way, and I'm gonna succeed. And for me, when I hear you talk, this in my mind, I see pictures. I grew up with 5 brothers, 5 sisters, but
Mhm.
there was days I felt alone. And for me, coming out of that, it's not what happens. How do you think about what happens and how do you push yourself forward? And I love your mentality where you said, "Hey, I'm this all happens to me. I have an amazing family and I'm grateful for that. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible for me." And for me, that's, I think, is your greatest win, because you constantly talk about that, hey, if something happens, I need to get better. In order for things to get better, I need to get better. If I need to do something else, it's me. It falls back eventually to me. And I love that piece of self-ownership, but it also scares me because there's a lot of listeners here today which feel the same way, and they didn't have the upbringing you had. They don't have the mental gymnastics, or you call it mental judo. You know, how or what would you tell to somebody? Somebody comes to you and said, "Hey, Myles, I heard that podcast with you and Christian. You know what? I feel the same way, and I feel like I'm constantly being stepped on. I'm constantly being overlooked, and everything just always happens to me, and I don't know why."
Yeah, well, the first thing I would tell them is move physically, because I think physical movement
Mhm.
promotes positive mental outlook. You have to physically move, because if physically you feel better, then mentally you're operating at a higher level.
Mhm.
And I would, and I've got some friends that are going through difficult times. The retail industry's had a brick and mortar has had a massive
Mhm.
meltdown. There's huge consolidation, a lot of layoffs, people struggling financially, and yeah,
Mhm.
hey, let's do an accounting. What do you do really well? Let's whiteboard this.
Mhm.
And what do you not do so well? And the things you're not doing well, what are critical to improve upon, whether it's professional or personal or spiritual or whatever it might be, and what three things can we do short term to push you in the direction of being a better version of you. And
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to push your chips all in one direction, but it comes down to, do you love yourself and do you value yourself? And if not, let's get you some love and value. And if you
Mhm.
do, fabulous. Let's elevate that and find the niche that is expressively you.
Yeah.
It's hard, it's difficult, but if you hold the right people accountable in your network, and you focus on the future, not lagging indicators of the past, and that plan may change regularly, you're in a better place. And much like an athlete or a runner, consistency is
Mhm.
the number one talent. You're consistent every day, putting the work in, then you're progressively doing better.
Mhm.
And so those are my thoughts. And I'm fortunate because I've got a group that I lean on for feedback.
Yeah. I love all of what you just said. And again, to our listeners, go back a few minutes, because for me, there's a few things you said which is not just great for business. I think it's great life advice. Things will happen. Chips are gonna be pushed against you. You need to keep moving, because a body in motion stays in motion, and it's hard to move and be depressed. So I don't,
It
it's
is.
and then it's really hard, because for me, when I feel down, and sometimes I feel down for my reason, nothing on the outside, but it's just because the way things go. And just moving makes me feel different. I have a Peloton bike over there,
Nice.
and I just go on it, and it goes away. So for me, I learned, we all have these up or down cycles, but the way you act towards that, or the way you react, is the outcome you have. And that's something absolutely amazing about you. So let me talk to you a little bit from a different perspective. If you find somebody entering the fashion and shoe industry you were in, and they have, what mindset and what strategies would you encourage them not to just adopt, but what do you feel are some of the really great things which made you successful within that?
Great question. I'd like to tell you that it was talent, but it was luck and opportunity and some hard work. I'm not the
Hmm.
most talented. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the brightest. Um, I've always been concerned about the end, sort of the end customer, the end consumer. So that customer centric thinking was always the first thing I thought about. How is this going to feel, or how are they going to experience this, or what do we want to be like or look like? So I had a vision of the future, vision board, and then the alignment back from that. How do we get there?
Hmm.
And I would encourage anyone in any industry to have a deep understanding of the competitors, a deep understanding of what community they want to be meaningful to, a passion for being specific because you can't please everyone, and to have a thick skin to push out the distractions and have conviction that what you're doing is going to take you where you need to, but enough humility that if you're not getting there, to ask for help and to be willing to pivot.
I love that. So good. So good. Again, to our listeners, go back and listen to that again, because that can get you out of a slump. If you get into an industry where you feel like you're being stepped on, there's some really amazing advice. So, Myles, I just looked at the clock. I can go and talk to you forever, but I'm interested. So, all the things you do and all the things you have been done. So help our audience to look a little bit behind the curtain. What is Myles working on, Myles, for the next 6 months? And what is Myles working on his business for the next 6 months?
Oh, thank you for asking. So I'm currently working as a consultant to a variety of small to mid-sized companies that are facing seemingly insurmountable challenges in growth. And growth could be product creation, it could be customer acquisition, it could be loyalty programming, or it could just be merchandising. How do we create better product? With the tariffs and all the challenges with sourcing, I've gotten pulled into a little bit of that, though I tend to refer that work out. I act as a fractional CMO for a couple brands, but I really try to play my position as best I can. And at the end of the day, we're quite selective with who I'm working with and why. I try to do at least 1 to 2 pro bono projects a month. For me, it's fulfilling, it's time consuming, but I think that's important for us as a group, as a community. And it allows me to learn. Again, product. I'm very product centric. I like things that I can touch and play and feel with.
That's awesome. I really appreciate it. And you need to promise first of all to come back. But before we go, I wanted to ask you if you're up for something playing called Rapid Fire Questions Food Service Edition. But before we do that, let's help our audience to learn more about you. Where can they read more about you? Where can they learn more about you? Where can they interact with you?
Well, the first thing they can do is follow you, because I know there'll be show notes or something. So that's a must. So thank you for the opportunity to join you. My first name spelled with a Y, Myles. I'm on LinkedIn. That's really my only social media outlet. Stella, Stella, Stella Industries, LLC is my business, named after my Rottweiler. And it's the website's but the content's So between there, the majority of what I do is by referral. I don't do solicitations of business, and we're not doing SEO optimization, but I'm fortunate for people like yourself and Larry and others that you connect with them and they move you along. And on LinkedIn, you have a question, hit me up. I always have time to talk.
I really appreciate it. And I encourage our listeners to come and run over to LinkedIn and check out Myles. And also make sure you guys befriend him. Also, in the show notes below, you find my 5 takeaways from today's conversation. And also, there's a little bit of something about in it for you guys to learn more about our guest today. So with that, are you ready to play Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition?
If I pass, do I get a free meal?
There's no passing grade.
Okay.
The audience will decide. So to our listeners, can you please write on the comments below if you deserve some meal or not? And so,
absolutely. Hit me as hard as you can, and let's see if I bounce back.
I asked my team to make the questions real hard. So we have full transparency. We have 53 questions, and we kind of recycled them through that. And I said, can you just lay it on a little bit for today's interview? So with that, the way it works is I will ask you for a number between 1 and 25. And then I ask you to answer it as quickly as you can, yes or no. And then we want to know why. So if that's good for you. Okay, with that, let's go. Give me your first number between 1 and 25.
2.
2. Ooh, should ramen noodles be legit breakfast food? Yes or no, and why?
Yes. Every day, all day long. It cures the hangover. It nourishes the soul. And if there's anyone that doesn't like it, they don't have a good palate.
There might be a movement against that, but I
That's
go with you.
okay. Thank you.
Give me another number between 1 and 25.
12.
12. Oh, oldie but goodie. Pineapple on the pizza. Yes or no, and why?
Never. Never. It's Italiano. We got to keep it fresh. Come on, chef, please. Traditional.
There's a whole movement of bringing the pineapple back, but I'm with you. It has no place on the pizza. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
14.
14. Ooh, if it is not spicy enough to make you sweat, is even worth eating? Yes or no, and why?
No. Bring on the heat. That's it. The world's a hot place. Bring it on. Pressure makes a diamond. Let's go. Bring the heat.
Yeah. So people which know me, I don't like heat at all. I'm sorry. I like heat. He doesn't like me. So, I leave it by that. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
10.
10. Should all foods be served with a surprised ingredient just to have fun? Yes or no, and why?
No.
Why not?
There are health codes that prevent surprised ingredients in the culinary world.
I never thought about it that way, but you're spot on. Okay, give me last number between 1 and 25.
24.
24. If if a dish doesn't make it Instagrammable, should it be even bothered to be eaten? Yes or no, and why?
Yes, because occasionally you'll go for food and not have your camera.
Oh, I love that, because we went out for dinner last night and my daughter said, no, don't eat. I need to take a picture of it.
A photo. I know.
I realized I'm older than some other people. Because for me, I just eat first. Camera comes second. But with that, thank you for playing rapid fire question food service.
Thank you for having me. That was fun.
So, Myles, I absolutely love the conversation. So, just your best advice you have ever gotten. So you're 20 something now. If somebody wants to come to you and tell you, hey, Myles, give me the best advice you ever gotten, what advice would you give them and what would you tell them?
Quiet your cleverness and slow down. It's not a sprint.
I love that. I absolutely love that. With that, I want to say thanks for being here today. Thanks for the gift of your time. You need to promise to come back, because I think there is something else we want to know about you. But or maybe you need to tell us now, because there was a little fun fact I wanted to put out there. You talked about that you ran a half marathon in Georgetown last December with your oldest daughter. How did that go?
She challenged me. She came to me and said, Dad, you need to run, and we're doing a half marathon. And I was just like, what? And I was like, well, okay, let's do it. And she took me to Georgetown and we ran the half. I can tell you I beat her in the first 6 miles and had a complete meltdown. And on the back 6, she smacked me in the ass when she passed me and said, move a little faster, old man. And I knew at that point in time she was an adult and the baton had been passed.
Oh, I love that. So
it's true.
I did say that earlier because as I read about it, I was like, oh, I need to ask him about it. But listen, I absolutely loved having you. You absolutely need to come back. We love the way you look at not just setback, the way you look at business, the way you look at how to bring people along and how to move yourself along. You absolutely are the poster boy for what we talk about, which is the disruptive chef. And we have written this on here because honestly, you can do nothing without starting a conversation. And I absolutely loved today's conversation with you. So I want to say thanks for being here today. And to our listeners, please run over to LinkedIn and make sure you guys follow this guy. Also, if you can, look on the show notes below and let us know, what did you resonate with? What did you think of some of his answers from the rapid fire question food service edition? Some of them is questionable, but make sure
So
you get
upset about ramen, huh?
and then if you can, please send this episode to a friend or like us. Also, click the notification bell so you know exactly every new episode we bring to you. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. Until next time, remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. My name is Christian. I'm here with Myles, and we are out of here. We are signing off. So be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. So I really appreciate you. Thanks for being here today. And to our listeners, make sure go out there and be disruptive, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.